it was lunisolar calendar. And they live from the new moon to the full moon was really busy time. And then from the full moon to the new moon, they didn't really do that much. It was sort of relatively quiet, their calendar. And I thought, wow, that's amazing. Imagine living like that, where you actually have periods of busyness and productivity, and then periods of rest and slow. And it just made so much sense. Why don't we live like this? Who was it who took the lunar out of our calendar? It's very much embracing the feminine. We live in this sort of world where we're expected to, be productive all the time. So it's that thing of welcoming the feminine. The planner is circular, which is quite unique. It's actually really beautiful doing your planner in a circle.
Welcome to Wildflow Podcast with me, Charlotte Pointeau. I'm an internationally award-winning menstrual cycle and embodiment coach, cycle mysteries guide, and founder of the First Moon Circle School of Menstrual Education for Children. Tune in for deep, heartfelt conversations with wisdom keepers, embodied leaders, and change makers on themes from cyclical living in flow with your menstrual cycle and body's wisdom, reclaiming rites of passages to normalize period positivity for you and the next generation, and exploring our embodied experiences, soulful transformations, and intuitive wisdom guiding you to express and embody your full power in the change you want to see in the world. Are you ready? Let's flow. The moon cycle is universal, whether you have a menstrual cycle or not, whatever your gender or identity, and wherever you are in the world. We are all under the influence of the same moon in the same phase at any time. Today's guest, Nadiah, founder of Tune to the Moon, a lunisolar menstrual diary, is here to guide us to firstly build awareness of the moon's placement, phase, and energy on us as it cycles around us, to embody lunar living practices for ourselves, and then to be able to share that with our loved ones and communities through lunar practices, cyclical living, and her beautiful diary, Tune to the Moon. It is a beautiful menstrual diary that allows you to tap into the cycles by connecting predominantly with the moon, the menstrual cycle, the seasons, the sabbats, the wisdom of the archetypes across the year, and in a way that allows you to honor your body, energy, mind, and spirit. And I'm really excited to share this because in 2023, I used Nadiah's first ever diary. And it was a really glorious way of living in the regular Gregorian calendar, but having prompts there on the pages to tap into the moons, as well as to map my menstrual cycles and to use the circular cycle charts at the start of the diary as well. So it's this beautiful way to really use, in quite a simple but really powerfully effective way, this place to tap into both my menstrual cycle and the moon cycles and do that in a really harmonious, easeful way. And so Nadiah has just launched her 2024 diary, which is even more jam-packed whilst being really accessible, clear, and super easy to use as like a one-stop shop without being too in-depth as well. And I'm really excited to share Nadiah and her diary and her story with you. So Nadiah Christensen, she lives near me in the Southern Highlands, and our children both go to the same local Steiner school. Nadiah comes to my women's circles, which I hold on the sabbats, the 8 sabbats of the year. And it's been beautiful to get to know her and to see her birthing this journey, this diary over the last couple of years or so. So Nadiah worked as a creative director in the apparel industry for almost 2 decades, having founded a men's underwear brand in 2006. Prior to that, she worked as a graphic designer in both Sydney and London. After decades of combining being a mum, running this business, and running a home, Nadiah became sick and burnt out. This led her to begin questioning the modern concept of time and a culture that promotes continuous productivity and growth. And in this journey of hers, this is what led her to discover the lunisolar calendar and to discover the moon and ancient ways of connecting with the moon and simple embodied practices that we can easily incorporate into our individual practices, into our families, into our friendships, our communities, and into the wider culture to help us to all reclaim time for space, for inner connection, for community, for productivity as well, but in a way that stops us becoming burnt out and instead returns us back to our cyclical nature. Loved this conversation, and I'm so excited to share. We chatted about what cycle wisdom means to Nadiah, why she's particularly passionate about the lunar cycle, even though she has a menstrual cycle. What is it about the lunar cycle, especially, that really calls to her, and why that's the predominant cycle she really works with. We're talking about how we can live by and honor the moon cycle as a way to deeply connect to ourselves and our bodies and the benefits that has brought us. Her story, why she left her business in the apparel industry to create this beautiful Tune to the Moon diary, discovering cycle wisdom within herself, connecting to her body, what it was that encouraged her to take this leap and say no to the way that she was living and working before. She's sharing with us the features of the diary, what's included in it, why it's really quite different to any of the diaries out there, and what's included for the new year as well. And she's sharing with us wisdom from her own personal journey and an invitation to discover how you can also tune to the moon. So settle in. This is a beautiful conversation, and I'm really excited to share it with you. So let's begin. Welcome to Wildflow, Nadiah. How are you today?
Hello, Charlotte. I'm very excited to have this time with you. I'm pretty
Me
good.
too. I'm so looking forward to chatting with you today. Let's start off, as always, before we dive in, to begin with a cycle check-in. So I'll ask you in a moment. I'll go first, but then I'll ask you to share a cycle check-in. So that could be just where you're at in yourself today in relation to any of the cycles that you follow, and just how you're feeling. So your own cycle check-in in your own way, whatever that is to you. And I'll just go first. So for me, I'm late in my luteal phase. And I think I'll be bleeding around the weekend. So it's currently a Tuesday. So probably about 4 or 5 days away, I think. And I felt today a real shift as I woke up. I felt like I dropped into that deeper gear, like that. It's like if you're driving a manual car, I sort of think of it as like first or second gear, like there's some real grunt there. And it's like, it's not flowing effortlessly, but it's like, kind of grunt is just what comes to mind. And I can feel like the balloon has been popped and I'm on my way down. And yeah, I was a bit moody this morning, just irritable. It's the end of term for our children, both of us. Our children go to school together. So we're finishing school tomorrow, and all of our children are exhausted. And I feel like I am too. I'm just really ready for the end. So yeah, I feel like interesting when I think about it. We're under the third quarter moon as well. So the waning moon. We're about a week away from the new moon. And so although it is like, you know, we're in summer now, we've just transitioned to summer. It's that real, like, you know, it's getting hot. This is going to be a hot week, and it's like summertime is coming and holiday time is coming. So the year, I feel like, is really like approaching the peak. We're about, I think, 3 weeks ish from summer solstice. But everything else for me feels like a huge descent. And because I have a menstrual cycle, that is like my dominant experience. So yeah, it's interesting. I'm like getting ready to completely wrap up for the year and just collapse in a heap. And with my bleed, I'll be very much doing that. So yeah, it's quite interesting just to notice how I feel in that real, like, oh, is the finish line here yet? But yet it's this like bright, beautiful, buoyant time of the year as well. So yeah, that for me, yeah, that's That's my check-in. And I just love to open that to you, Nadiah, just to
Oh, beautiful.
what's there for you today.
Oh, I so relate to what you're saying. So, and yesterday, I actually thought it was Monday. I thought it was Friday because school finishes tomorrow. Today's sort of the official last day. And I just, yeah, just I'm so thrown. And I'm day 27 in my cycle. And usually that means I'm very withdrawn and my energy is very contracting, but I'm feeling I've got all this sort of, yeah, I'm really outward. So I feel really out of whack with how I'm usually feeling, which is interesting to observe. And it's been an unusual month for me. So I wonder if things that, so when we had that last full moon, I couldn't sleep. Like so many people I spoke to said they couldn't sleep. And I felt very agitated. And usually during the full moon, I feel I'm pretty excited. I'm enjoying that really, the big energy. But this time it was very intense. And after, so I actually think I'm a little bit more in sync with where the moon is. So we're in a waning gibbous. So I think we're about to hit the last quarter. And so I usually that time, that energy, you're still outward, but you're starting to contract. So I'm feeling that. So I think I'm definitely more in sync with the moon. But I'm enjoying the summer energy. Yeah, and it's very hot here today. And it's not usually very hot, is it? In the
It's not.
Highlands.
No, it's not. This is like quite unusual, and it's been really humid as well, which I think has really affected me because I just don't do so well with the humidity. But just hearing you share that, thank you for sharing what you've noticed with the moon, because I had the exact same thing. I normally feel the same way you do about the full moon, but this time I felt the way you described. I couldn't sleep, was quite agitated. I felt restless. I didn't feel at peace. Whereas normally the full moon really allows me that chance to express maybe, or have like a fun kind of energy, like like a time of that I enjoy. And it's like that, I'm normally around ovulation time as well. So yeah, like a real inner summer kind of energy with the moon. But I've had a lot going on personally as well. Just with my wider family and some, real health scares. And so it's been quite an emotional time actually. And I think that when the full moon happened, I was holding on to so much energy and emotion that it was sort of like a bit of inner turmoil, and I needed like an outlet. So I went to the local conscious dance event that I know that you've been to as well. And I really let it out
Great.
on the land and the elements. And I think that was just what I really needed at that time. So yeah, I remember feeling a bit out of sorts too. And I'm not an expert in astrology, but I'm curious if you know about what the moon represented this time, because I don't have that knowledge innate, and I sometimes just, I will look it up from various sources to get some guidance. But I know it was a Gemini full moon. I think that's right from memory now, but I don't know too much. I just wonder, is that something you know a little bit about, or not so much?
Look, I'm quite new to astrology. I'm just starting to dip my feet into it, and I have been exploring it for next year. But yeah, I'm actually it's a new thing for me, and I feel like to be able to speak, I probably need to embody it more and to actually experience it and feel how they work together, the stars and the moon. So I'm sorry, I can't really say much about.
Not at all.
But yes, it was an intense. Yes, it definitely was an intense moon.
Yeah.
So I can relate to that intensity.
Yeah, I think it's something that I'd like to learn more about, because it seems to just hold a lot of power when I read up on what other people are sharing about the different placements of the moon. astrology wise. And I just think, oh, it's so interesting. But even without that, I think that form like the moons and the moon cycles are just so influential over us, aren't they? It's so powerful, that bright energy in the sky, sometimes, and then other times that complete darkness, and really does have a really interesting correlation with how we feel in ourselves. And that's something that I really want to dive in with you. So I'd love to ask you, first of all, just a question that occurred to me is just, what is cycle wisdom to you?
Well, cycle wisdom, I guess it's a journey, really. It's a journey from awareness, building awareness, to feeling into it, and then I think it's just, using that awareness to live by, and using you're really being embodied into it. I think that's probably how I would describe cycle wisdom.
Beautiful. I love that. It's that's a beautiful answer, and it feels quite succinct and simple in some ways, but really profound in other ways. And the embodiment of that is, it's one thing to know things, but it's another to embody that and really honor that and follow that. So I love that answer. And with cycles and with your beautiful Tune to the Moon diary that you have been creating, and I'm so excited to talk about this, but you're really passionate about the lunar cycle particularly. It's called Tune to the Moon. We've been talking about the moon. I'm really interested, what is it about the lunar cycle that captured your interest? Most of all, like, is that a cycle that you sort of prefer to work with, or that speaks to you more, or is it the first one that got your attention, or like, what is it about the lunar cycle that really speaks to you?
I think what I love about the lunar cycle is it's so universal. So both men and women can use it. I think the thing about the menstrual cycle is it's very much about your own experience as a woman. And we can use them together because they are so connected. But what I love about the lunar cycle is it does, whenever I can talk to anyone about it and they kind of get it. They said, like, that makes sense to me. And it is a cycle that has been followed by humans from the beginning of time. So I love that it's so much part of our story as humans.
Yeah, that's so true. I love that, because I'm from the UK and now live in Australia, that it's the same moon phase wherever we are.
Yes.
And I just think that that's really beautiful to connect us. It's like the same wherever, and everyone knows what a full moon is and a new moon is, and like you say, it's like a common thread. I really feel that too, that sense of connection to like ancestors, and like really, really going back to like first humans. I think that's incredible that they would have watched this moon change in the sky and learned to tell time, I guess, with it, and track their life through it. So and we can still do that now.
The very first calendar was actually a piece of bone that had 28 or 29 incisions. It's so simple.
That's amazing. So would they have used that to count every month once they'd mapped that out, do you think?
I wonder if it was, it may have been a menstrual calendar. It's really hard to know. I mean, we're talking 10,000 years or 20,000. It's very ancient. But the fact is that it's reflective. It's so I think it was probably used. I imagine that the moon would have helped them in how they lived, in terms of how they planned their life. but it's hard to know. I mean, it's ancient
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. It's
But
really hard to.
intuitively, it feels like it was possibly menstrual, and then there was that reflection.
With the moon. Yeah,
Yeah, with
beautiful.
the
Yeah.
moon.
So powerful. Yeah. And you're just talking about there, like living and planning with the moon. So how can we do that today? Do you want to share with us some about how you've learned to do that for yourself? How does the moon guide you through your life?
Well, so I guess what I love about the moon is it's not, there's no ending, there's no beginning, it's a cycle. And so rather than this idea of time being finite, having an end, I just love that concept of that it just keeps going. It's ever changing. But it's predictable. You know that there's going to be a new moon. You know there's going to be a full moon. So there's a lot of comfort in that. And I think when I started to really connect with the lunar cycle, it was a time when I was really noticing how how distressing people were feeling about life. That there was a lot of stuff happening in the world. That I think it was during COVID. And I think just that the concept of life coming to an end was I just found it very distressing. And I think I noticed that in a lot of others. And I looked to nature and I saw that after an end, there's always a rebirth. There's always a new life. And the moon shows us that. And so it just seemed like a really intuitive way to live. And I guess because our calendar is so sun focused, you could say,
Mm.
I wanted to bring them together, the feminine and the masculine, and the sun and the moon, and I guess that was what got me thinking about the diary.
That's fascinating. I love that beautiful idea of bringing the sun and the moon together. And yeah, the fact that it's these endings that can feel really present for us, especially during difficult times. But actually, like I personally find so much peace in seeing everything as a cycle because it's like, well, I think we have a terrible relationship with endings as humans. We fear it. We don't really know how to honor it or celebrate it or see it for what it is. And so when we take a cyclical view, I just feel so like this, I could trust, and that there's a peace that comes with that we can, break things down into these cycles for like, managing a month to month based on a moon cycle or a menstrual cycle, for example. But, we have the annual cycle as well. And, these cycles that can be much longer and larger than that too. But everything goes on, and we have this chance to end intentionally and then start again. So
It's
yeah.
comforting, isn't it? It's comforting. And you
Mm.
just feel held. You're not flaying everywhere. It's sort of when you trust it, you can feel held by it, and there's something very comforting in that.
Mm. So Nadiah, would you like to share your story with us? I'd love to hear, because I don't know this story either, even though we are friends and we know each other locally. I don't know your story. I would love to hear how you left your job in the apparel industry, for one thing, to create your beautiful diary, but also like how did you find cycle wisdom or cyclical living or this moon cycle in your life? How did you come to be where you're at now?
Well, I'll take you back to the beginning. So
Mm.
I grew up in Canberra, and so my family's quite big and mostly made up of women, which is really special. and my grandma was very comfortable with her body. So we grew up, she would sometimes we'd see her naked and it was no big deal. It was just it just seemed okay. Everything was fine. It wasn't celebrated, but there was no shame, in being a woman and having cycles. And so I grew up with women who talked about all sorts of things. They were very open sexually. They were open talking about their bodies, but there wasn't celebration about being a woman. It's just that they would talk about it. And there was definitely no shame, which was really special. When I got my period, my mum was the one who noticed it. I didn't really know much about it at the time. I was 13. And she just said to me, "Oh, you've got your period now. You can start wearing these pads." And I was like, "Oh, okay, cool. Now you can have a baby." Oh, what does that mean? And so it wasn't a celebration, but there was also no shame. And as time went on, my periods were quite painful, in what felt like not a healthy way. And I took medicine to dampen the feeling, and that was pretty much up until I had a child. And my mum said to me, "Oh, once you have a baby, all that pain will go away." And she was right, but it wasn't so intense. It was still discomfort, but that felt good. There's a discomfort that feels right and healthy and okay. And so I think I struggled with having a healthy relationship or a happy relationship with my cycle before I had children, because of this of anticipating the pain that was going to come when I got my period. But I remember always loving ovulation, feeling just so fantastic, so sexual. And so I loved ovulation, and I was very connected. I didn't I was never on the pill. So I always experienced that sort of the full range, I guess you could say, of the cycle. I remember being in biology class in Year 9 and learning about the menstrual cycle and what ovulation actually means. It means, you could potentially get pregnant. So I think, oh, wow, that's amazing. That there's this egg that gets released and it can turn into a baby. And it got me thinking, oh, wow, so you can get pregnant. And it also, you cannot get pregnant if you're a bit more aware of your cycle. So that was something that I was always aware of too, that there's the cycle. You can use the cycle in how you possibly protect yourself from getting pregnant or get pregnant, and not that it's necessarily works, but it was definitely something I was aware of. So I did have this connection with it, and so that was probably my early years, this sort of awareness. But getting back to my work story, I was always very interested in creating, like making things as a child. I went to a Steiner school, so I did. There was a lot of storytelling. There was a lot of lots of craft and art, and the arts is such a big part of Steiner. And so I really, I loved that, and it was very much therapy for me too. And so after I finished school, I went into graphic design. I went and studied graphic design because that was sort of, because I was artistic, that was kind of like, oh, you should do graphic design because you'll make money. That was kind of like the attitude. Anyway, so I did graphic design, which I really loved it. But 1 or 2 years into working in the industry, it just didn't feel great. I was interested in graphics and textiles, but I wasn't so interested in the corporate design, which is sort of what I was doing. And so I started designing fabrics for swimwear. That's sort of how it began. And And then my mum said to me, oh, you should start your own brand. It's like, oh, yeah, sure. It's because it's so easy to do. So I started I started designing women's swimwear, and I did a range, and I sold it into some shops, but it was so tough. It was without enough money, to really do any marketing, getting it out there. It just, in the end, I ran out of money. In fact, I didn't run out of money. I was in debt big time. And I thought, oh my goodness, how am I going to get out of this? I've got this $10,000 credit card and I've got no income. I've got no money. So my husband and I, we had this sort of crazy idea of doing men's swimwear. And we made up a prototype, and we did a very, very small production. We put it on eBay and it just went off. It was just like we had all these men writing, oh, can I order 5 of them? Was one of the first messages I got. And I just thought, oh, fantastic. This is great. So we started this men's swimwear brand that became a men's underwear brand. And in time, it was all consuming. And I think when I first started, I was working 16 hours a day for, until I had Sophie. So once I had my child, then everything changed, because suddenly you don't have the time, you're looking after a child. And I actually wanted to be there for her. I wanted to care for her and have that experience of being a mum. But I kept on doing the menswear and for many, many years. But it was always a struggle. It was always that trying to look after a child, trying to run a business and run a house, do all the cooking. It was like it was never ending. This sort of the demands and the energy that was going out. And then when she was about 6, I got diagnosed with an autoimmune disease called Graves. And I thought I was going to die. It was really scary. And it actually made me stop and look at my life. And I stopped working for a while so I could try and recover. And my brother and sister, who also they had joined the company over time, and they took the reins then while I had this time to rest. And I did get better, which was fantastic. Graves is one of those strange diseases that tends to affect younger women, and it's very much stress. So once you actually reduce your stress, and I changed my diet as well, so I cut out all sorts of inflammatory foods. It just slowly I got better, and my autoimmune markers went down, and then I got pregnant again at age 39 or 40 or something like that. And that was then, oh my goodness, doing that work again, having a young child. And a few years into Magnus's life, I just went, oh, I just can't live like this anymore. It's too much. I wasn't enjoying the work anymore. It was all just too much. And I was just carrying too much. And I actually just went, I can't do this anymore. I just feel like I'm going to die. I actually felt I don't want to live anymore. I just want to die. When is this going to end? So that was a horrible feeling. And then that's when I decided I was going to get out. I was going to get out of the business. And then it took, and while that whole process was happening of leaving, which was hard in itself, because you in a way, creating a brand is like creating a baby in a way. And so kind of coming to terms with that ending, but also being really, there's an excitement about the new life, what comes after that. And that's when around that time is when I started to think about time differently, because I saw, the world, the idea of time having an ending, and also feeling it in myself, that time there was going to be an end. So the how I really started to think about this diary was that I was in Melbourne, and I picked up this book about Celtic myths, because I'm really into Celtic stories, and it had this page about a calendar that's an ancient Celtic calendar that was dug up not that long ago, where they discovered that it was partially destroyed, probably by, they don't know who by, whether it was the Romans or the Celts themselves destroyed it so that the Romans wouldn't find it. They're not quite sure, but anyway, they put it back together, and it was a lunisolar calendar, and they lived. The interesting thing was that they actually, from the new moon to the full moon was really busy time, and then from the full moon to the new moon, they didn't really do that much. It was sort of relatively quiet, their calendar. And I thought, wow, that's amazing. Imagine living like that, where you actually have periods of busyness and productivity, and then periods of rest and slow. And it just made so much sense. Why don't we live like this? Who was it who took the lunar out of our calendar? And that's how that's when I thought, okay, I'm gonna start putting the lunar cycle into my current diary that I had at the time. So I'd create a page using my design programs, Illustrator. I went to the printer, printed it out, cut it out, and stuck it in my diary. And I actually I started to use it, and I started to become aware. I think that was the first thing. It's that awareness. Where's the moon? Go and look at it if you want. Just that connect with it. And I also, and because I'm so aware that our menstrual cycle reflects the moon cycle, I put that in as well, because I know that has a huge influence on our energy too. So it was very much about building awareness at that stage. And then after I'd been using it for a while, I thought, I'm going to make a diary. I'm actually going to make one, and for myself, but I'm going to make a few extras, print a few extras out, and see if anyone else would like some. And I wanted it to be really, really high quality and very sustainable, because I was really interested in not just cyclical living, but also the circular economy. So it really brings in a lot of my passions for the cycle, I guess.
Wow, what a beautiful, rich, moving story. Thank you for sharing that with us. I can just see so many moments in your life's journey that has brought you to here where you are. And, I just love how, as is the case with all of us, when we find something that feels like a real real alignment, like a real kind of, I don't want to put this onto you, but I'm sensing like this is really fulfilling for you, and it's so meaningful, and it's like the culmination of your journey. And when we have, when we look back and we can just see all those parts that put us on the right path, and then we get to bring it all together and weave this creation that is just so beautiful. And I just really am fascinated hearing about the lunisolar calendar and how you started to bring that in. And I think it's so interesting, because as I was listening to you, I was thinking about how one of the challenges with living according to our menstrual cycle is that we can be you and I could be it sounds like we're in pretty much the same place, same day even of our cycle, because we did that check-in at the start. But people don't walk around going, where are you in your cycle? What day are you on? What, and comparing before we start scheduling events. But also we can be really in, opposing energies at the same time, even within our families, within our friendships. We don't, sometimes people are, we sync up. It seems like we sync up, but and I think that, there's the scientific data to kind of verify from that kind of, very clinical research basis hasn't confirmed that there is, in fact, this syncing mechanism that happens between intimate women who are intimate with each other, close with each other. But we all know anecdotally that can absolutely happen, and that, the research isn't the be all and end all. But for I even within like friendships, I have people who are at completely different points in their cycle to me. And so if you were to try and schedule, a busy first half of your cycle and then a quieter second half, like that's not going to align for everyone. Whereas if you take the moon, we're all under the same moon. And I just think that that's glorious, having, these events, occasions, meetups, meetings, social things, family things, whatever, in that first half of the moon cycle from the new moon to the full moon. And then everyone getting that permission and that role modeling and that holding by something that's bigger and beyond them, to just take that time after the full moon to come back to ourselves, listen to ourselves. How are we feeling? What do we need? What space can we have? How can we just build in more rest and replenishment and, all of that most people just absolutely cannot find for themselves. And even when we as individuals are on a path of factoring that into our own lives, that's one thing, but being able to share it with everyone around us is like the next step, isn't it? It's like you said, awareness first, and then it's like, how do we embody that for ourselves, and then how do we share that with others, and make this like a collective new normal. So I just love that. And I think your diary, because I received one last year, so I've been using it this year, it's just something I've absolutely cherished, and I sent a bunch out to clients as well. And one thing that I really love is that you've got like so I guess what you would call the solar calendar. So like the typical Gregorian calendar where you've got, a week per view with all the moon phases. And you've got like, the energy. So waxing crescent is like an expanding energy, for example. So you've got on there the energies of that. But then the other thing that I love at the start is that you've got a circular calendar. So 1 month. So for example, I've just opened it up at November, for example, and it's like a cycle chart, like a circular cycle chart, but it's a diary form. So you've got on there the days, you've got on there the energies, the qualities of each phase of the moon for prompts. You've got the little pictures of the 4 moons at the different quarters. And then you've got space for, for like little notes and reflections. So obviously we can add in a menstrual cycle charting to that. And then, so if you've got 1 month per page, you've got these 12 pages where you can have this compared overview of all the menstrual cycle charts instead of having it on loose pieces of paper that can get lost. You can look back over the months at your cycle chart, and just to have that all in the same place as the way that we can live our lives, fitting into the world we live in, is possible. But it also brings in this magic of the cycles. So whichever cycles you're aligned with, whether you don't have a menstrual cycle and you just want to work with the lunar cycle, like it's all there, all the wisdom, all the guidance of exactly what the moons mean and what time the moon rises, at different phases. And this really beautiful space for including menstrual cycle wisdom as well, if you want to. And I'm excited because this year for 2024, you've made some additional changes too. So do you want to tell us about the diary, what you've put in there, how you expect people or, invite people to use it? Just give us a bit of a overview. Yeah, of what's in there.
Charlotte. That was a beautiful introduction to the diary and wonderful reflection of how you find it. It's wonderful. So I guess the first thing I wanted to say is is I wanted it to be simple enough for women who are just starting to connect or starting to take an interest. I didn't want it to scare anyone off, because I guess there are a lot of people out there who this is very new, and it is. It's very much embracing the feminine in a way, because it's sort of like, well, we live in this sort of world where we're expected to, be productive all the time, and so it's that thing of welcoming the feminine, and so yes, I wanted it to be simple in the way it was designed graphically, and also content-wise. So it starts. It starts with a where do you start? How do you begin? And really, it can be as simple as going out at night and looking for the moon. And then there's pages on cycles of nature. So actually awareness of the energy of all the cycles really that are in our life, like the seasons and life cycles, and then I go into more depth on the lunar cycle and the energy of, and also just ideas of how you might feel at that time, what you might want to include at that time. So there's a bit more depth there if you wish to explore that. And then observing the moon, which is quite it's almost in a way scientific, as in it's guidance for just going out there and I want to see the moon. Where is it? What's the best time to see it? So those sorts of things are I think they're quite unique in a lunar diary. This year I've added a page on lunar astrology and dates for where the stars are at the new moon, or which stars that you'll see it during the new moons, and a little bit of the energy of that sign, which is quite fun. I think they're quite fun, and they are they're based on astrology that I guess it's very simple. So that's where I'm. I guess it's a reflection of where I'm at with astrology. I'm just learning. So it's a lovely sort of gentle stepping stone.
And I think that's perfect as well, because it's not overwhelming, where I've had other diaries that are so heavily astrology focused and I'm like, I just don't have that level of knowledge. Whereas this is like accessible, easy. It's like, it's a part of it. It's adding another layer of richness, but it's not astrology like centric. So I feel like it's a beautiful addition, whilst keeping it at the level that it needs to be without going too deep as well. Yeah, I love that.
Exactly. I think if you want a heavily astrological diary, you would get an astrology diary. I think that's, and there are so many out there, and they're fantastic. But that's not really what I needed, and I think a lot of women, that's not. We don't necessarily have time either. We just need. We're very busy. I just want something simple, really. So that's why everything's quite simple. And then one of the additions to this year is a page on tuning into your cycle. So whether you menstruate or not, there's some guidance on how you might feel, and that's quite beautiful, because you do get that sense of, well, you don't need to be syncing with the moon either. You don't need to ovulate during the full moon. You will just feel different. You'll feel different, and it might be a more gentle experience. So when I bleed during a full moon, I just don't feel quite so intense or outward. It's really, they're very subtle, but it's just having that awareness and feeling into your own experience. But it's just guidance, really, that helps you, gets you thinking. And then another exciting thing is the wheel of the year. So one of the things that I love so much is going to Charlotte's circles, So we've got summer solstice coming up, which is very exciting. And we had Beltane, that was very exciting.
Yeah, it was.
It
It was
was so
awesome.
fun.
Yeah.
So the Wheel of the Year is the celebration of the seasons. And I've got some journal pages in there. So that's really nice, just at those times of the year to reflect on how, just have thoughts and reflections that you might want to note down. And there are certain festivals that are great for setting new intentions, thinking about the year ahead. And that, I think it might be in bulk, I think is like a good time to think about your intentions for the year. And so the planner is very similar. It's circular, which is really quite unique, and that can take a bit of getting used to, but it's actually really beautiful doing your planner in a circle. And you can note. I color in my cycle, my menstrual cycle, with pencils, and that's quite a nice thing to do. And there's room for that. And then the other thing that's new this year is journaling pages for every new moon. So throughout the diary, for every new moon, there's a page for reflections and a page for intentions. And what I've also done is I've darkened the waning crescent moon pages, just as a little reminder that it's a good time to just slow down, rest, maybe book in a massage, or just have a think about a little bit of self-love and some self-care. So they're the main additions. And also I've got a little scored, the flaps that are on either side of the diary have a little score line, and you can use that as a bookmark if you wish, or the diaries do come with a bookmark that have the moon phases on it. So yeah.
I just love this, because I feel like with the additions that you've put in for next year, it's like everything I could possibly want in a diary. And I just want to highlight a couple of things that I'm really excited that you've put in the Sabbats, like you say, the 8 sort of festivals of the year. And I do my women's circles at the time of those. So I do 8 a year on the Sabbats. And so for me, that means that's the theme of the circle. It's the theme of like what's coming up in our lives. And it's doesn't matter how old you are, or if you have a menstrual cycle, it's the season of the year, the time, like the energy of that point of the year. And it helps us to be really mindful. It's like more than 4 seasons. It's 8 points, which actually come every 6 or 7 weeks, which is quite regular, but like long enough to have that kind of like bigger picture view. And so I love that you've put in like information on what these solar festivals are, the earth seasons, like how you can work with each one, like you talked about, in bulk, which is actually the 2nd of August in the Southern Southern Hemisphere.
Oh, yes.
So, if you think about the solar year, like in the Northern Hemisphere, the new year is like the beginning of the solar cycle. So it's like, New Year's resolutions, everyone always talks about that. Whereas for us in the Southern Hemisphere, actually, we're halfway through the solar year. It's like still peak summer. We're halfway through. So as you said, like winter time, just past midwinter, is actually the time to be thinking about intentions for the year. The solar year should work differently. And so including these Sabbats gives us a way to really tune into the energies of the sun and the seasons. And then you've got the journaling page for each Sabbat as well. So with prompts, which I just think, I can take that to the circles and like think about it for myself personally, even though I'm facilitating. It gives me that chance to just drop in and really think about it. And I just think that that's just so rich, because that's my practice and my heritage. But it's the way that, I think that we can just really drop into something beyond like, oh, it's New Year, so we set intentions, or, you know, even just thinking about 4 seasons, it becomes much more meaningful and connected. And like, it's just a beautiful spiritual practice. And then I sort of didn't really notice that you'd shaded out the second half of each lunar cycle, from the full moon to the new moon, as being just lightly shaded, so that's a beautiful invitation. Like you said, I'm going to really take note of that. That's glorious.
Oh,
So
wonderful.
yeah,
I'm excited about that.
really pleased.
Yeah. And for myself, I think, I mean, graphically, I guess because I'm such a visual person, the graphics, they speak, they speak my language. So yeah, having some darkened pages, sort of like, remember, it's rest time, or slow down, book in that massage. So that's another thing. I try and book in a massage once a month as my self-love. And I've been doing that for a while now. And it actually, when I first started, I felt a bit guilty. And that's the other thing, like, awareness is one thing. Once you start putting things into practice, you might notice you respond as in, oh, I don't know if I deserve this, or surely I should be doing something else. And so it's that once you go, no, actually, this is really important. This is important for me to perform better at different times. And so, or to be more productive. And that's one thing I really do notice by practicing that cycle of honoring what you need, you do end up performing or being more productive, having more energy when you're kind of meant to, or when it feels, when you need to.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's like, use the energy when it's there and don't try and push yourself when you don't have it, and then nurture yourself in those moments where you need it. Because as we say, you can't have if everything is a death and rebirth cycle, you've got to sustain yourself across that. You know, it doesn't happen if we just burn out all the time. So, you know, we've got to put those practices in there to make it happen.
That's right. And if you can't, and there's times in life where you're not feeling like you want to be somewhere, but you have to be there for whatever reason. And I think it's just awareness. Go, okay, I know I don't want to go because I'm feeling really inward. I just want to go to bed, or I just want to be on my own. And just sort of just be aware that, okay, I'm going to go, but I'm aware of this. Maybe once it's over, I can take some time and, you know, just honoring that.
Beautiful wisdom. So you've also got a notebook coming out, haven't you? Do you want to just give us a little sneaky peek on that?
Yeah,
a journal.
Sure. Yeah. The journal is really, I guess, you know, it's a tool for holding you, for grounding you, for a place just to write to your heart's content of how you might be feeling, or just write, really. So it's very much a complement to the diary, but it's different. So it won't be dated. So you put in your own dates, and there won't be. It's really about. It's focused more on the lunar cycle. So there's not menstrual wisdom in there. It's very much a lunar journal.
Gorgeous. And so the big question, where can everyone get one from?
Well, you can get them from my website, tunetothemoon.com.au. If you see me around the school, just come and say hello. I want a diary.
Yeah.
I have them in a couple of shops around, but mostly through my website.
And do you ship overseas?
Yes. So the diary is for the Southern and Northern Hemisphere, which is really exciting. And I do ship overseas, and yes, I have lots of customers all over the world, which is really special. You know,
that's amazing. Yeah. And I really can vouch for that, because I love that it's you know, a calendar that works for, it just feel really inclusive in that way, that it's, you know, it doesn't matter where you are or how old you are or like what your kind of lifestyle is. It's a beautiful way of holding us to just grow that awareness, to put that understanding into practice and embody it, and to hold us with the cycles that resonate for us. So I just think that I love how it works for people. You know, it's not a different diary based on hemisphere. It's one, but it beautifully makes space for everybody. So yeah, I highly recommend. If you would like a copy, then you can grab them from Nadiah's website. That's tunetothemoon.com.au, and I'll pop the links into the show notes. And so if people order, they'll get it. I guess they'll get it around the start of the new year sort of time, if you know when this comes out. So that will just hold you beautifully into that start of that new year.
Yeah, I think if you're in Australia, I usually send the same day if you order, and overseas I ship the same day, but it can take up to 2 weeks. So just keep that in mind. The diary does begin on a new moon, which is really exciting. On the 13th of December, actually, it starts. So the new moon before the solstice.
Yeah. Beautiful. And so if you were to leave one piece of wisdom with listeners to ponder on for this ending of the year, this, to connect in with the cycles in themselves, is there anything that comes through that you'd like to just leave as a parting gift?
Be gentle on yourself. So if this is new, step lightly, be gentle, give it time, and know that living by the cycles is power. It's power. And I think it's very beautiful to have that. So yeah, I wish everyone happy cycling.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for your wisdom, your creativity, your story. Just really sharing your magic with us. And I invite everyone to tune to the moon for the next year ahead.
Thanks, you, Charlotte. Nadiah. It's been really special having this time with you.
Thank you. Me too. Thanks so much for listening to Wildflow. I love having you here. If you're loving this podcast, why not leave a rating and review and share your favorite episodes with those who you think would love to listen. And if you share on Instagram, tag me at charlotte.pointo.coach. To take the next step in your own journey of learning how to live, love and lead and flow with your cyclical nature, and for deeper guidance and support in your cycle embodiment journey, you can discover my freebies and join my Wildflow Coven, my new Cycle Wisdom membership, or even discover my group programs, private cycle coaching and courses, all on my website at charlottepointo.com. Until next time, go well with the flow of your body's cyclic nature.